Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi amma ba'd. Ayyuhal ikhwatul kiram, we come to the final lesson in studying al-Lāmiyyah ibn Abi Taymiyyah rahimahullah. And in the previous lesson we spoke about ru'yatullah, the believers seeing Allah subhanahu yawm al-qiyamah, and an-nuzul, Allah subhanahu descending to the lowest heaven in the last third part of the night. And now we come to the 11th verse, in which the author said, وَأُقِرُّ بِالْمِيزَانِ وَالْحَوْضِ الَّذِي أَرْجُو بِأَنِّي مِنْهُ رِيًّا أَنْهَلُ. And I affirm al-Mizan, and I affirm al-Hawd, which I hope I will drink from, and my thirst will be quenched. So in this verse of poetry, he affirms two matters from al-Alam al-Ghaybi, from the world of the unseen, i.e. that which will occur on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and that is al-Mizan and al-Hawd. So as for al-Mizan, al-Mizan are the scales on which actions will be weighed up on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And al-Hawd is the pond which the believers will drink from on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And both of them are physical and real. Both of them are physical and real. So just as we believe regarding everything else, Jannah, Jahannam, the rewards of Jannah, etc., that all of it is real and physical, we also believe regarding al-Mizan and al-Hawd that both of them are real and physical. So the Hawd is, so firstly al-Mizan. Now he said, وَأُقِرُّ بِالْمِيزَانِ. Firstly al-Mizan. We believe that al-Mizan is something which is real and physical. And Allah subhanahu will send it down on Yawm al-Qiyamah to weigh up certain things. And the Mizan has been affirmed in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Allah subhanahu said in Surah al-Anbiya, وَنَضَعُ الْمَوَازِينَ الْقِسْطِ لِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ, that we will place the scales of justice on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And he said in Surah al-A'raf, وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقِّ, that al-wazn, the mizan, the weighing, on that day will be a reality. And Allah subhanahu said in Surah al-Qari'ah, فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٍ. He said, as for the one whose scales of good deed are heavy on Yawm al-Qiyamah, then he will be in a life of pleasure and happiness. And as for the one, خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, his scales of good deeds are light, فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٍ, then his ending is a fire, as is in the rest of the surah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, كَلِمَتَانِ خَفِيفَتَانِ عَلَى اللِّسَانِ, two phrases which are light upon the tongue. ثَقِيلَتَانِ فِي الْمِيزَانِ, heavy upon the scales. حَبِيبَتَانِ إِلَى الرَّحْمَنِ, most beloved to Ar-Rahman. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallah al-azim. So he said ثَقِيلَتَانِ فِي الْمِيزَانِ, that they will be heavy on the scales. So, and the hadith in Sahih Bukhari. So these hadith, these ayat, they show us that the Mizan, the scales of justice, which is from al-Alam al-Ghaybi, from the world of the unseen, it is something which is real and physical. And we believe regarding the Mizan that the actions will be weighed. Actions will be weighed. And also the scrolls or the records of good deeds will be weighed. And also people will be weighed. So as for people being weighed because of the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu an, or the hadith of Ali radiallahu an, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he ordered Abdullah ibn Mas'ud to climb a nakhla, a palm tree, to bring down some dates. And when he climbed up the tree, or the date palm, some of the other Sahaba, they began to laugh at how thin the shins of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud are. And the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, "Ma tadhakun? What are you laughing at? La rijl Abdullah athqalu fil Mizaan yawm al-Qiyamah min Jabal Uhud." That the shin of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud on Yawm al-Qiyamah will be heavier than Mount Uhud, and other ahadith as well. So we believe that actions will be weighed, and La ilaha illallah, it outweighs any other action. And we believe the sijillat, the records and the scrolls of deeds, will also be weighed, and also people or certain people will be weighed. And this is only for the believers. As for the kuffar and the munafiqun, then they will have no accountability. Rather, their sins will be exposed, and their evil will be exposed, and then they will be driven to Jahannam, na'udhu billah. So this is with regards to al-Mizan. As for al-Hawd, then al-Hawd is the pond which will be erected on Yawm al-Qiyamah. The believers will drink from, and the munafiqun and the kuffar will not be able to drink from the Hawd. And we believe every single prophet will have a Hawd. And the Hawd is not the Kawthar. So there are differences between the Kawthar and the Hawd. Firstly, the Kawthar will be in Jannah, and the Hawd will be on Yawm al-Qiyamah before Jannah. Secondly, the Kawthar is bigger than the Hawd. Thirdly, water will be channeled from the Hawd to the Kawthar. Water will be channeled from the Hawd, from the Kawthar to the Hawd. Water will be channeled from the Kawthar to the Hawd. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he described the Hawd. He said, يُشْخَبُ فِيهِ مِيزَابَانِ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ عَنْ نَهْرِ الْكَوْثَرِ. That two streams will pour into the Hawd from the heavens from Nahr al-Kawthar. آنِيَتُهُ عَدَدُ نُجُومِ السَّمَاءِ. Its utensils are as numerous as the stars. مَاؤُهُ أَبْيَضُ مِنَ الثَّلْجِ. Its water is whiter than snow. وَأَحْلَى مِنَ الْعَسَلِ. And sweeter than honey, and the other descriptions of the Hawd. So again, these descriptions of the Hawd, it shows us that it is something which is physical and real. So we cannot say that Hawd is the mercy of Allah. No, Hawd is water and a physical real pond which will be created for the believers to drink from. And some of the people of innovation, they say that the meaning of al-Hawd is coolness that believers will find in their heart. So they didn't accept the Hawd according to its real meaning, but they tried to change it metaphorically, now which goes along with the rest of their Aqidah. Then after this, the author, he mentions another aspect of our Aqidah. He said, وَكَذَا الصِّرَاطُ يُمَدُّ فَوْقَ جَهَنَّمٍ فَمُسَلَّمٌ نَاجٍ وَآخَرٌ مُهْمَلٌ. And also the Sirat. And the Sirat will be erected over Jahannam. So the Muslim will be saved, and the other one will be punished. So as-Sirat, as he said, يُمَدُّ فَوْقَ جَهَنَّمٍ. This is a bridge which will be erected over Jahannam. And every single person, including Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, including all of the prophets, and every single person from the Muslims and the Kuffar and the Munafiqun, all of them will pass over as-Sirat. And there are two different bridges One is called as-sirat and one is called al-qantara. The difference is that as-sirat is over Jahannam and everybody will pass over it. As for al-qantara, then it is on the edges of Jannah and only the mu'minun will pass over the qantara. And Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they believe in as-sirat and that it is something physical and real, and it has certain descriptions which the Prophet ﷺ gave, and that every single person will pass over the sirat at the speed of their actions, according to their actions. And regarding the sirat, the Messenger ﷺ, he described it. He said, "Ahaddu min as-sayf." It is sharper than the sword. وَأَدَّقُّ مِنَ الشَّعْرِ, and finer than a hair, a strand of hair. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُور. And the one for whom Allah subhanahu does not make a light on that day, he will be in complete darkness. As I mentioned, people will pass over the sirat according to their actions. So some people pass over the sirat as quick as lightning, and others will pass over the sirat as fast as a horse which gallops, and others will pass over the sirat as quick as a person can run, and others will pass over the sirat as slow as a person can crawl, and other people will not be able to pass over the sirat, and they will fall into Jahannam, na'udhu billah. And all of this is according to a person's actions. As for the qantara is not to judge between the sins of the people, but to judge between the rights of the people, the rights of the believers. Now, when people violated each other's rights from the believers, they'll then pass over the qantara, and they'll remain upon the qantara until there has been retribution between the rights of the people, such that nobody enters into Jannah with any hiqd or any hatred or ill feeling in their hearts. So all of this there'll be retribution for all of this upon the qantara. And then after this, the author mentioned two other aspects from Alimul Ghaib. He said, وَالنَّارُ يَصْلَاهَا الشَّقِيُّ بِحِكْمَةٍ وَكَذَا التَّقِيُّ إِلَى الْجِنَانِ سَيَدْخُلُ. That the fire, as for the fire, الشَّقِي, the wretched one, will burn in the fire according to the wisdom of Allah. And the taqi, meaning the mu'min, the person of taqwa, will enter into Jannah. So again, Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they believe regarding Jannah that it is from al-alamul ghaybi, from the world of the unseen, makhluqatani, and both of them exist and they have been created, and they are something which is physical and real, not metaphorical, and that they will remain forever. And that Allah subhanahu created Jannah for the people of Tawheed, and He created Jahannam for the people of Ash-Shirk. And therefore this shows us the importance of At-Tawheed, that even Jannah and Jahannam was only created for the sake of At-Tawheed. Jannah for those who affirm Tawheed and worship Allah, and Jahannam for those who oppose Tawheed and do not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the important thing in all of this, and this aqeedah and this belief, it's not a matter of affirming and negating, but it's a matter of working for Jannah and being scared of Jahannam. So this is what Tawheed has to lead to. This is the fruits of At-Tawheed. Not that a person says, I believe, I affirm Al-Jannah wal-Nar makhluqatani la tafniyani, that both of them exist and they are physical and they are real and they will never cease. No. That we then work towards Jannah and we yearn for Jannah and our greatest focus and desire is Jannah, and our greatest dua is for Jannah, and that we fear Jahannam, and we stay away from everything which angers Allah and leads towards Jahannam. And a Sahabi came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to the Messenger of Allah, Ya Rasulullah, kayfa aqulu fi salati? O Messenger of Allah, what should I say in my salah? Meaning, which dua should I be making in my sujood? Or the Prophet said to him, kayfa taqulu fi salatik? What do you say in your sujood? What dua do you make in your sujood? And the man said, I don't know much in terms of complicated du'as. وَلَكِنِّي أَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ الْجَنَّةَ وَأَعُوذُ بِهِ مِنَ النَّارِ. But I ask Allah for Jannah and I seek His protection from the fire. And the Prophet ﷺ said, وَحَوْلَهُ نُدَنْدِنْ. That this is also our dua. Our dua is also, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. So if a person cannot memorize any other dua to say in his sujood, then at the least memorize Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. 6 or 7 words. Say it, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. 7 words. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. One more time. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. So this dua, now that you've memorized it, no sujood should you pass by in your nafal or your fard except after at-tasbih, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. Sometimes people make a mistake that when they're praying behind the imam, and let's say when they're sitting down before the taslim and they finished the tashahhud and as-salah al-Ibrahimiyyah, and the imam is continuing, and then what do? They remain silent until the taslim, all the way until the taslim they remain silent. This is a mistake. There should be no periods of silence in the salah. Notice, in every single position of the salah, there is some dhikr or some tasbih or some dua or some qira'ah which the Prophet ﷺ taught. In every single, even in the sitting between the two sujood, there is some dhikr which is said. So if, for example, you've made your tasbihat in sujood, you finished, and the imam is still in sujood, don't stay silent. At the least, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. Similarly, you've said your tashahhud and you've said as-salatul Ibrahimiyyah and the imam is continuing, don't remain silent. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu bika min an-nar. Even if you repeat it again and again and again, this is what a person should do, along with making dua for your parents, yourself and your parents and the Muslims. So this is with regards to al-jannah wan-nar. Then after this, the author speaks about the life in the qabr, which is known as al-barzakh. He said, وَلِكُلِّ حَيٍّ عَاقِلٍ فِي قَبْرِهِ عَمَلٌ يُقَارِنُهُ هُنَاكَ وَيُسْأَلُ. And for every living sane person in his grave, meaning every person who was alive and sane in the dunya, then in his grave there will be actions which will accompany him and he will be questioned regarding them. So this shows us that the one who was majnoon, meaning he did not have mental capacity to think, he is forgiven. There is no hisab, and the pen of responsibility has been lifted from the majnoon. So there's no sin upon that person. There's no wajib upon that person. But the one who is alive and he has aql, he's accountable and responsible for his actions. And the first hisab will be in his grave. Before the hisab of Yawm al-Qiyamah, there is a hisab in the grave. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us to seek refuge in Allah from the punishment of the grave. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr. Oh Allah, I seek refuge and protection in you from the punishment of the grave. So also, our aqeedah regarding the grave is like our aqeedah regarding the hereafter. We affirm everything which Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about, in general and specifically. And all of it is physical and real. All of it is physical and real. So like in the hadith of al-Bara ibn Azib, when a person dies and his relatives walk away, a person hears the footsteps of his relatives walking away. This is physical and real. ثُمَّ يَأْتِيهِ مَلَكَانِ, and then two angels come to that person. Physically, really, they come to that person. وَيُجْلِسَانِهِ, and they make him sit up. So he physically, in reality, he sits up. ثُمَّ يَسْأَلَانِهِ, and then they ask him. So this questioning, it is something which is physical and real. And they say to him, مَنْ رَبُّكَ وَمَا دِينُكَ وَمَنْ نَبِيُّكَ, who is your Lord, and what is your religion, and who is your prophet? These are physical, real questions. And the angels are physical and real. And then his grave is expanded, or his grave is constricted. And this is physical and real. And a gateway or a window or a door for Jannah is open for the believer until he can see it and he can smell its fragrance. And this is real and physical. And for the munafiq or the kafir, a gate or a window or a door of Jahannam is open for him. And he can feel the heat and the severity of Jahannam, na'udhu billah. This is physical and real. Na'am. So we believe all of this is physical and real. However, the difference is that the barzakh, the life of the grave, it is not the life of the dunya. So it's a different dimension or different parallel called al-barzakh. And so the rulings of the dunya don't apply to the barzakh. So if a person says, but we dug up the grave and we didn't find any window to Jannah, we didn't find the grave bigger or smaller, how does that person sit up? No, it's all real and physical, but it is the parallel of the barzakh, not the dunya. And therefore the rulings of the dunya don't apply to the barzakh, just as they don't apply to the akhirah. Naam. And there are aspects of the dunya which are real and we cannot understand them. There are aspects of the dunya which are real and we cannot understand them. So how can we now apply this logic to al-alamul ghaybi, the world of the unseen? For example, let me give you a clear example. Two people, they go to sleep at the same time. They sleep on the same bed. And one, he begins to dream, and that dream is something which is real for him. Whilst he's in that dream, it's a reality for him. And he is smiling, and it's a beautiful dream to the extent that even when he wakes up, he might wake up with positivity and smiling and laughing and in a good mood. And we've all been there. And the person next to him, sleeping on the same bed, and he sees a nightmare. And it is something real and physical for him whilst he's in that state. To the extent that he might even begin to sweat and shiver. And he might even wake up crying and scared, and he spoils all of his day. And we're not able to explain that. How can that be, and how can that have an effect in his physical being in terms of his emotions and trembling and scared and crying or laughing and speaking? And we're not able to explain that. And all of that is from the dunya. So if we cannot infer logical conclusions that from the matter of the dunya yet, then how about the akhirah? So all of it is real, but it is from the barzakh and not from the dunya or the rules of the dunya. And as for عَمَلٌ يُقَارِنُهُ هُنَاكَ وَيُسْأَلُ, that person will be accompanied by his actions and he'll be questioned regarding his actions. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, يَتْبَعُ الْمَيِّتْ ثَلَاث, that the deceased person is followed by three things. فَيَرْجِعُ اثْنَانِ, two return back, وَيَبْقَى وَاحِد, and one remains with him. He said, يَتْبَعُهُ أَهْلُهُ وَمَالُهُ وَعَمَلُهُ, that his family follow him, and his property and his wealth follows him, and his actions follow him. فَيَرْجِعُ أَهْلُهُ وَمَالُهُ. As for his family and his wealth, it stays behind, it goes back. As for his actions, it remains with him. And he's asked regarding his actions. And in the hadith of al-Bara ibn Azib, when a person in his grave, يَأْتِيهِ رَجُلٌ, a man approaches him, حَسَنُ الْوَجْهِ وَحَسَنُ الثِّيَابِ وَطِيبُ الرِّيحِ. A man approaches him, and this man has a beautiful appearance, wearing beautiful clothes, with a fragrant smell. And then that man says to the person in the grave, أبشر بالذي يسرك هذا يومك الذي كنت توعد, that have the glad tidings of that which pleases you. This is the day which you were promised. So the deceased person says, وَمَنْ أَنْتَ, and who are you? فَوَجْهُكَ الْوَجْهُ الَّذِي يَجِئُ بِالْخَيْرِ, because your face is a face which has brought goodness. And that man will say, أَنَا عَمَلُكُ الصَّالِحِ, I am your righteous actions. And that deceased person will be so pleased and find so much happiness. He will say, رَبِّي أَقِمِ السَّاعَةَ الْآنِ, oh my Lord, bring my Yawm al-Qiyamah now, because of the goodness which his righteous actions have brought him. And as for the kafir and the munafiq, فَيَأْتِيهِ رَجُلٌ, he will also be approached by a person, قَبِيحُ الْوَجْهِ, with a repulsive appearance, قَبِيحُ الثِّيَابِ, with disgusting clothes, مُنْتِنُ الرِّيحِ, with a foul smell. فَيَقُولُ, and then the man will say to the munafiq and the kafir, أَبْشِرْ بِالَّذِي يَسُوءُكَ, that take the news of that which pains you today. هَذَا يَوْمُكَ الَّذِي كُنْتَ تُوعَدْ, because this is the day which you were promised. So the deceased will say, مَنْ أَنْتَ, and who are you? فَوَجْهُكَ يَجِئُ بِالشَّرِّ, because your face, your appearance is an appearance of evil. And the man will say, أَنَا عَمُلُكَ الْخَبِيثِ, that I am your evil actions. And so the deceased will say, رَبِّي لَا تُقِمِ السَّاعَةِ, oh Allah, do not bring the hour. Oh Allah, do not bring the hour, do not establish the hour upon me. So again, the fruits and the benefits of this aqeedah, of this tawheed, is not only to affirm al-qabr and the description of the qabr, but to work for the life in the qabr and to be scared of the punishment of the qabr. And then the author said, هذا اعتقاد الشافعي ومالك وأبي حنيفة ثم أحمد ينقل, that this which I have mentioned, these are not my words. This is not just my aqeedah which I have invented. Rather, this is the aqeedah of al-Shafi'i and Malik and Abu Hanifa and Ahmad. I mean, this is the aqeedah of the Salaf and the Imams and the Huffaz and Ahl Hadith and the Sahaba. And he mentioned four of the greatest scholars and the greatest A'imma, al-Shafi'i, Malik, Abu Hanifa and Ahmad, the four great Imams of the Ummah. The first of them, he said, هذا اعتقاد الشافعي, that this is the aqeedah of al-Shafi'i. And al-Shafi'i, he's Muhammad ibn Idris ibn al-Abbas al-Hashimi al-Qurashi, al-Shafi'i. So he was from Bani Hashim, from the progeny of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he was born 150 years after the hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he was born in Gaza in Palestine. And when he was 2 years old, his mother migrated with him to Mecca. And then he remained in Mecca for a while, and he memorized the Quran before he reached 7 years old. And then after this, he visited Medina. And in Al-Madinah, he met Al-Imamu Malik. And then after this, he traveled some of the Muslim world. So he traveled to Yemen, and he traveled to Baghdad, where he met Al-Imam Ahmad, and he also traveled to Al-Kufa, where he met the students of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And Al-Dhahabi said regarding Al-Shafi'i that he is Al-Imam Alimul Asri wa Nasirul Hadith wa Faqihul Millah Abu Abdullah Al-Qurashi. He is the great Imam, the scholar of the time, the supporter of Hadith, and the Faqih of this religion, Abu Abdullah Al-Qurashi. And he mentioned then Malik. And Malik is Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik ibn Abi Amir. And he was born 93 years after the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was born 93 years of the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was born in Medina, and he lived in Al-Madinah, and he's buried in Al-Madinah in Al-Baqiyah. And Al-Dhahabi said regarding Al-Imam Malik, huwa Shaykh al-Islam wa Hujjatul Ummah Imam Dar al-Hijrah. That he's the Shaykh of Al-Islam and the Hujjah of this Ummah, and he's the Imam of Darul Hijrah, because Al-Madinah is known as Darul Hijrah. It is a place in which the Prophet ﷺ made Hijrah to. And Al-Imam Malik was Darul Hijrah, Imam Darul Hijrah at his time. And as I mentioned, Ash-Shafi'i, he met Malik. And of course, Imam Malik was more senior than Ash-Shafi'i. And Imam Malik wrote one of the first compilations of hadith called Al-Muwatta. And then the third he mentioned was Abu Hanifa. And Abu Hanifa, he is Abu Hanifa An-Nu'man ibn Thabit At-Taymi Al-Kufi. So he was born in Kufa in Iraq. And he was born 80 Hijri, i.e. 80 years after the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was the first of the four A'imma of this Ummah. And it's differed whether he was from the Tabi'een or the Atba' Tabi'een. Meaning, did he see the Sahaba or did he not see the Sahaba? Because some of the reports mention that when he was young, he saw Malik ibn Anas radiallahu an. But the reports are differed over. And Al-Dhahabi said regarding Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, Al-Imam Faqihul Millah Alimul Iraq. And he's known as Al-Imam Al-A'zam. And the ulama who came after Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, they would greatly respect and exalt Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. In fact, Ash-Shafi'i rahimullah said, Man arad al-fiqh فَإِنَّ الْفُقَهَاءَ عِيَالٌ إِلَىٰ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ. That whoever wants fiqh, then all of the fuqaha, they are dependent upon the fiqh of Abu Hanifa. And Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he said, مَا رَأَيْتُ رَجُلًا أَوْقَرْ فِي مَجْلِسِهِ وَلَا أَحْسَنْ سَمْتًا وَحِلْمًا مِنْ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ. That I did not see a person more noble in his gathering and more silent and beautiful in his speech and more tolerant and patient than Abu Hanifa. And then the last of them he mentioned Ahmad, meaning Ahmad ibn Hanbal al-Shaybani. And he was born in Baghdad, and he was born 164 years after the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he's the last of the four Imams from A'immatul Fiqh. And also Ash-Shafi'i met him. And Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah said regarding Al-Imam Ahmad, وَهُوَ الْإِمَامُ حَقًّا وَالشَّيْخُ الْإِسْلَامِ صِدْقًا Abu Abdullah. That he is the Imam. Truly he is the Imam. And he is Shaykh al-Islam. And also he compiled one of the largest compilations of hadith known as Al-Musnad. And it's mentioned regarding Imam Ahmad that he memorized by heart 1 million hadith. He memorized by heart of memory 1 million narrations. Yani hadith of the Messenger sallam and athar of the Sahaba. A hadith and athar. And all four of these Imams, each one of them encouraged people to learn and follow the evidences. And each one of these four Imams, they warned against at-taqleed. So Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, أجمع المسلمون, that the Muslims have agreed على على أن من استبان له سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يحل له أن يدعها لقول أحد. Shafi'i said that the Muslims have agreed that any person to whom the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes clear, it's not permitted for that person to abandon that hadith of that sunnah for the speech of any person, for the speech of any imam. And Imam Malik, his statement is famous. He said, لَيْسَ مِنَّا أَحَدٍ إِلَّا وَيُؤْخَذْ مِنْهُ أَوْ يُرَدْ إِلَّا صَاحِبُ ذَاكَ الْقَبْرِ. That there is nobody amongst us except either his speech can be accepted or it can be rejected, apart from the inhabitant of that grave, pointing to the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also, Imam Abu Hanifa and his statements are famous. He said, هذا رأي النعمان ibn Thabit. That this is the view of Nu'man ibn Thabit, meaning himself. وهو أحسن ما قدرت عليه. And this is the best of opinion which I have arrived at. فَمَنْ جَاءَ بِأَحْسَنِ مِنْهَا فَهُوَ أَوْلَى بِالصَّوَابِ. And the one who has a view which is better than my view, then he's more worthy of being followed. And he said, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيث فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. If a hadith is correct, authentic, it is my madhab. And he said, لا يحل لأحد أن يأخذ بقولنا ما لم يعلم من أين أخذناه. It is not permitted for a person to adopt our view if he does not know where we take that view from, meaning the evidence we have based that view upon. And also, Imam Ahmad rahimullah, he has many statements. He said, لا تقلدني, do not blindly follow me. ولا تقلد مالك ولا الشافعي ولا الأوزاعي ولا الثوري وخذ من حيث أخذوا. But take from where they took, i.e. from the Quran and the Sunnah. Then the author finishes his poetry. He said, فَإِنِ اتَّبَعْتَ سَبِيلَهُمْ فَمُوَفَّقٌ. So if you follow their way, meaning if you follow the aqeedah of the Salaf and before them the Sahaba, muwaffaq, you'll be guided. So tawfiq and guidance is in the way of the believers who came before us, from the Salaf and the Sahaba. وَإِنِ ابْتَدَعْتَ فَمَا عَلَيْكَ مُعَوَّلُ. However, if you innovate and you go against the ijma' of those who came before us and the Sahaba, then there is no guidance here. And it's as if he is saying that this poetry which I have written, these points which I have mentioned, they are not for my own self. And neither is it from any philosophy or logical conclusions. But this is wahi from Allah and His Messenger, as understood by the Salaf of this Ummah. And that is the last verse of poetry. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا وسلم.